What is really special about this model is how much more it can do with less guidance. Now, that is exactly how OpenAI's president Greg Brockman described their absolute game changer of a release. We're talking about the late April 2026 launch of GPT 5.5. This isn't just another chatbot update, guys. We've officially moved past the era of a passive digital assistant that just sits there waiting for your exact step-by-step instructions. We're looking at a highly capable, completely autonomous digital lab partner. Welcome to this explainer. I am incredibly pumped to guide you through this today because what we're looking at, it literally fundamentally changes the future of work, of science, and of tech as we know it. We're going to break down everything you need to know about OpenAI's GPT 5.5. We'll look at not just what this phenomenal new model does, but why it completely redefines how software is built, how we do scientific research, and how the massive enterprise super app race is totally heating up. So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll meet OpenAI's GPT 5.5. Second, we'll dive into the age of agentic AI. Third, we're taking it from textbooks to real-world tech. Fourth, we'll look at the AI super app race. And finally, number 5, we'll wrap up with what it means to live in a compute-powered economy. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Meet OpenAI's GPT 5.5, the April 2026 leap forward. So this dropped on April 23rd, 2026. And honestly, the sheer breadth of what this model can do is just staggering. GPT 5.5 absolutely excels at advanced coding and debugging. And I mean, it doesn't just write code, it actually fixes it and understands entire complex software architectures. It conducts deep scientific research, analyzes incredibly complex data, but here's the kicker. It navigates software all by itself. It can literally open a web browser, pull the data it needs, drop that into a spreadsheet, and summarize the whole thing for you. Plus, it pulls off all this heavy lifting with way higher token efficiency. So it's not just radically smarter, it's actually much cheaper to run. Which brings us to Section 2, the age of agentic AI, moving from assistant to agent. We are officially crossing the threshold from passive assistants to active agents. And trust me, this is a massive paradigm shift. Think about GPT 5.4, right? It came out just a month prior, and you still had to rely on really careful step-by-step prompting. You were basically holding the AI's hand the whole time. But GPT 5.5, it introduces true agentic action. Think back to that lab partner analogy. Now you just hand it a messy, highly ambiguous, multi-part problem, and it just gets to work. It is wild to see how it operates completely autonomously through a specific 4-step process. First off, it looks at your vague objective and plans the entire approach on its own. Second, it uses tools. It actively searches the web or clicks around in software to gather what it needs. Third, and this is the real breakthrough here, it actually checks its own work. It navigates ambiguity and fixes its own mistakes mid-task. And finally, it finishes the whole multi-part project without ever coming back to ask you what to do next. It just carries the ball right across the finish line. Okay, let's look under the hood in Section 3, Textbooks to Real-World Tech, the science inside. It's kind of fascinating when you realize that the foundational stuff you probably studied in high school or college are literally the building blocks inside this frontier tech. Take math, for instance. The model runs on complex probability and statistics to predict word outcomes. Computer science? GPT 5.5 relies heavily on algorithms and reinforcement learning, basically doing trial and reward decision-making millions of times a second. Biology even plays a part. It provides the logic for pattern recognition, which is virtually identical to how we map DNA sequencing. And physics? Well, absolutely none of this exists without the semiconductor physics of those massive NVIDIA GPUs. The physical flow of electrons is literally what powers this entire revolution. Now, when you apply all that hardcore science to the real world, the results are just awe-inspiring. Think about medicine. Traditionally, discovering a new drug takes roughly 10 to 15 years, right? But OpenAI's chief research officer, Mark Chen, pointed out that GPT 5.5's ability to analyze massive datasets of molecular info and autonomously read thousands of research papers is totally supercharging expert scientists. We're looking at tech that can dramatically shrink that decade-long timeline, which honestly fundamentally changes human health. And speaking of saving time, here's a really powerful number for the everyday business world: 10. Early access teams who integrated GPT 5.5 into their workflows, having it gut-check code, review thousands of documents, and manage their data, are reporting that they're saving up to 10 hours of work per week. I mean, think about that. That is more than a full business day handed back to every single employee every single week. And the wild part? It's doing this on a budget.
According to Artificial Analyses Coding Index, GPT-5.5 is delivering this state-of-the-art coding intelligence at roughly half the cost of competing frontier models. So if you're a developer using this inside a coding assistant like Codex, you're getting a huge leap in execution power, way fewer retries, fewer tokens used, all while literally halving your expense. It's a total game changer.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 4. The AI Super App Race, checking out the competitive landscape. Because this massive leap in capability, it's happening inside a hyper-competitive tech landscape. OpenAI is pushing hard toward an enterprise super app, basically a unified Swiss Army knife that seamlessly combines ChatGPT, Codex, and a browsing agent into one thing. And the pace they're moving at is just breakneck. Take a look at this timeline. Huge model updates in November and December, then boom, GPT 5.4 in March, and right on its heels, GPT 5.5 in April. The momentum is so crazy that OpenAI's chief scientist Yaku Pachoki even joked that to them, the last 2 years actually felt surprisingly slow compared to what they see coming down the pipeline. Now, this relentless rollout is, of course, fueled by some really intense rivalry. OpenAI is racing neck and neck against tech heavyweights like Google with their Gemini 3.1 Pro, and Anthropic with their Claude Opus 4.5 and their newly announced cybersecurity tool, Claude Mythos. They're all fiercely fighting to define this next generation of executing AI. The whole landscape has shifted. The competition isn't about who has the best chatbot anymore. It's entirely about whose agent can get the most actual work done. But with autonomous agents taking action on our behalf, we definitely have to talk about safety, right? Because an AI that can write code and navigate the web on its own brings a ton of serious scrutiny. OpenAI VP of Research Mia Glace emphasized that GPT 5.5 has been extensively red-teamed by third parties to really refine their safeguards, especially around cyber and biological risks. It does meet the bar for a high-risk classification, meaning, yeah, it could potentially amplify existing threats if it's misused, but they've put crucial guardrails in place to ensure it does not cross into that critical cybersecurity risk threshold. The reality is, powerful agents absolutely require powerful, durable safety nets.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, a compute-powered economy, looking at the macro vision.
So what does all of this mean for society and the global market over the coming years? Greg Brockman summed it up perfectly. He said, "We are moving to a compute-powered economy." And that is a profoundly huge vision. He's basically suggesting that raw computational power will become the fundamental bedrock of human productivity. Moving forward, work isn't just going to be measured by human hours anymore. It's going to be measured by AI capacity and raw compute execution. Which leaves us with a fascinating and honestly pretty urgent question to think about. In a compute-powered economy where GPT 5.5 and whatever comes next are acting as your highly capable autonomous digital lab partner, what will your role be? How are you going to use your foundational knowledge, your math, your science, your unique creativity to direct these agents and solve the massive real-world problems of tomorrow? It is a rapidly evolving future, and the very next major breakthrough might just come from how you choose to use these incredible tools. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep exploring, keep learning, and definitely start thinking about your place in this new agentic future.